In the early 1490s, a devious pope, through a series of 4 bulls, gave all newfound lands in the newly explored Indies to Spain. This decision, which seemed to favor Spain, was not without its controversies. The pope drew a famous demarcation line running from the north to the South Pole, 100 leagues west and south of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands. Any land discovered west of this line, not already possessed by a Christian prince, would belong to Spain. However, this line was proposed by Christopher Columbus himself, and his rationale was based on some bizarre pseudoscientific ideas. He claimed that just beyond the 100-league mark, the climate changed dramatically, the temperature became mild year-round, and the sea was full of weeds. He even asserted that lice died off beyond this point, and that no one would see a single louse after reaching the first islands of the Indies. These claims were, of course, nonsense, but they were used to justify the Pope's decision. King John II of Portugal, who had a superior navy, was not pleased with the Pope's declaration. He knew that the line drawn by the Pope favored Spain and could jeopardize Portugal's own explorations. With his powerful navy backing him, he negotiated with King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain to avoid the consequences of the Pope's bulls. On June 7, 1494, at Tordesillas in northern Spain, a historic treaty was signed that moved the line of demarcation farther west, to 370 leagues west of the Cape Verde Islands. This treaty was a significant moment in history, as it led to the Portuguese settlement in Brazil and the prevalence of the Spanish language in much of South America. Both Spain and Portugal showed remarkable goodwill in adhering to the terms of the treaty, even though the technology of the time made it difficult to precisely locate the agreed-upon meridian. Vespucci's first voyage under the Spanish flag suggested to him that to reach the passage to the Indies, he would need to follow the coastline eastward and then southward, which would take him into the Portuguese realm. It was not surprising, then, that on his next voyage he went under the auspices of Portugal. There were other reasons for his change in allegiance. The Spanish sovereigns, who did not yet know that the eastern point of South America was on the Portuguese side of the agreed line, might have deliberately excluded the Florentine Vespucci from their expeditions, preferring to explore the potential empire with their own nationals. On May 13, 1501, nearly a decade after Columbus's first crossing, Amerigo Vespucci set sail from Lisbon, commanding 3 caravels on a momentous 16-month voyage. After a long journey through the doldrums, they arrived at a new land that Vespucci observed to be a continent. He followed the South American coast for about 800 leagues, approximately 2,400 English miles, in a southwest direction, reaching as far as Patagonia, just 400 miles north of the southern tip of Tierra del Fuego. Vespucci wrote to his Florentine friend and patron, describing his journey in detail. He noted that they entered the torrid zone, passed south of the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn, and reached a latitude of 50 degrees south. They navigated in the southern hemisphere for nearly 10 months, seeing new constellations and experiencing the unique climate and wildlife of the region. Vespucci described the native inhabitants, the variety of trees and fruits, and the abundance of wildlife. He was particularly fascinated by the birds with brilliant plumage and the numerous species of animals, leading him to question how they could have all fit into Noah's Ark. Despite these novelties, the primary goal of the expedition was to find a westward passage to India. Vespucci was more interested in discovering a route through the new continent to the Asian Indies than in exploring the continent itself. After returning to Lisbon in September 1502, he changed his allegiance once again and moved back to Seville. The Spanish sovereigns welcomed Vespucci and immediately assigned him to provision caravels for an expedition to sail westward, north of the equator, to find a strait not discovered by Columbus. In 1508, Queen Joanna of Castile, who had succeeded Queen Isabella, named Amerigo Vespucci as the pilot major of Spain. His task was to found a school for pilots, and to have exclusive authority to examine and license pilots for voyages to the New World. Vespucci tried to popularize his complex method for finding longitude, but he was still suffering from malaria and died in 1512. The discovery of the New World did not immediately take Europe by storm. Booksellers and map makers had a vested interest in maintaining the supposed accuracy of their existing maps and publications. The most respected maps and globes did not leave room for a fourth continent, The vocabulary of papal bulls and government departments encouraged people to think of the new lands as part of the Indies, not a new continent. The Spanish government continued to convene the Council of the Indies and promulgate the laws of the Indies, and the New World natives were called Indians. Even if the New World was not part of Asia, it was safer to think of it as an outpost of Asia for the time being. However, some were excited by Vespucci's voyages and the idea of a new, unexplored part of the world. The naming of this new land was not done by sovereigns or a prestigious convocation of scholars, but by an obscure clergyman in a small town in the Vosges Mountains in northeastern France. Martin Waldseemüller, a man with broad interests and a passion for geography, was a member of a provincial learned society called the Gymnase Vosgian. The society, supported by the Duke of Lorraine, Renaud II of Vaudeman, published a small volume called Cosmographiae Introductio in April 1507. This book summarized traditional principles of cosmography and included a sensational account of a fourth part of the world revealed by Amerigo Vespucci's voyages. In the Cosmographiae Introductio, Waldseemüller casually suggested that the new land be called Amerige, meaning Land of Amerigo, or America, after Amerigo Vespucci, its discoverer. The book was so popular that a second edition was published in August of the same year. Waldseemüller also produced a large map showing the New World, with the South American continent inscribed as America. The map was widely praised, and Waldseemüller boasted that they had sold 1,000 copies. However, when Waldseemüller later decided that Vespucci should not be credited as the true discoverer of the New World, it was too late. The name America had already been disseminated by the printing press, and was indelibly imprinted on maps and in the minds of people. The printing press, a technology only about 50 years old at the time, revealed its power to spread information and misinformation. The sensational account of Vespucci's voyages, the Mundus Novus of 1502, was more appealing to readers than Columbus's earlier letters. Publications about Vespucci's travels outnumbered those about Columbus by 3-1 during the quarter century after the first published account of Vespucci's voyages. In 1538, when Gerardus Mercator published his large map of the world, he applied the name America to both the northern and southern continents, solidifying the name's use. The discovery of the New World and the naming of America were the result of a series of events and decisions that were not always straightforward or predictable. The devious Pope's bulls, the Treaty of Tordesillas, Vespucci's voyages, and Waldseemüller's map all played crucial roles in shaping the early modern world. The printing press, with its ability to disseminate information widely and quickly, played a significant part in making America a household name. The New World, once a mystery and a source of curiosity, became a place of opportunity and exploration, setting the stage for the future of the Americas and the world.